for far too long. She used to call me inside the house, promising that I'd get to play Snake and Tetris in her Nokia phone after I did my homework. These days, I often find her hiding her smartphone from my cousin's child, even sometimes dragging him outside to play. How times have changed. Talking about time, the time for me right now is to officially begin the ceremony. Again, good morning everybody, respected dignitaries, students, and everyone alike and everyone present here. My name is Symposium, and I'm here to make the dais call. Firstly, I would like to call our Professor Madhav Prasad Acharya, President of Kathmandu School of Law, on the dais. Similarly, today we have Professor Kapil Shrestha, AGMA Steering Committee member and former Commissioner of KHRC. Similarly, we also have our esteemed Professor Geeta Pathak, AGMA Steering Committee member and program convener of the AGMA. Similarly, I would like to acknowledge Associate Professor Bhisma Prasad Sarwola, Research Coordinator of AGMA. Bhisma sir, I humbly request you to come. Similarly, I would also like to acknowledge Sri Anil Raghuvamshi, Chairperson of Child SafeNet. Along with him, I would also like to acknowledge Renu Raghuvamshi and Hussein from Child SafeNet. Thank you so much, everyone.
Highlight of Symposium on Human Rights for the Young, Protection of Children in the Digital Age, which is very important, the digital age protection. The chairperson of today's inaugural program of this intensive and symposium, Professor Madhav Prasad Acharya. Similarly, I welcome Professor Kapil Shrestha, Asia Pacific Master's Degree in Human Rights and Democratization, the Steering Committee member as well as former Commissioner to the National Human Rights Commission of Nepal. Associate Professor Bhisma Prasad Sarwola, Research Coordinator of AGMA. The most importantly for this highlight, Anil Raghuvamshi, who happened to be our long-standing friendship that we have before starting Kathmandu School of Law. A very long time that we were working in the area of child protection. He has long experience and now running with a very important movement for the protection of children. He is the chairperson of Child SafeNet. And together with Junu Raghuvamshi, she also works with this Child SafeNet. And very young mind, I love to see, in fact, the young people speaking. We are in fact tired of hearing, other than my respected teachers. Okay, I'm of BLLB third year. This program and intensive falls under International Human Rights Law that I'm teaching as a subject teacher. So this is what, are there LLM, anyone? Actually this program is not for LLM, but I had asked the LLM to facilitate a couple of sessions. They may join later on. So all and of course persons here and all present over here. The program begins, if you recall, every year we have intensive together with Asia Pacific Master's Degree, Masters of Human Rights and Democratization, and BLLB student that we combine, especially on human rights and democratization issue, because democratization falls under your constitutional law, which is very important together with human rights discipline. And in human rights, every year we give the theme. Every year we give sometimes humanitarian law, sometimes the protection. But this year we have given the special highlight, the Symposium of Human Rights for the Young, Protection of Children in the Digital Age. This is the special highlight. And the theme this year, the broader theme this year is protection mechanism. Because we have been talking about more theories and what provisions do we have under the so-called conventions and also the soft law or hard law, and what protection mechanisms do we have available at international level, regional level and national level is very important to talk about for the implementation and enforcement of human rights, because the time perhaps has come to discuss more about the protection framework, not just the available remedies, which is of course important. The instruments are important, without which we cannot argue on the basis of the provisions, but the rights in reality. The rights in reality is very important at the ground level, and there are so many issues underlying. We might not have been able to grasp and understand those issues and work, truly speaking, for the marginalized, economically, socially, culturally, physically, territorially, and so on. So this year's theme, this year's intensive for APMA students, it will start from today and end on 17, because we have 10, 11, 12 and 13. They will remain here with the program. 10, 11 and 13 are together with 3 days, together with BLLB third year. And 12, you have the organization visit. And 14 is New Year, our Nepali New Year. And 15, we are moving to Pokhara for field intensive and visit to the refugee camp. This has been managed by Professor Kapil Shrestha. You will be more, coordinating this program. And then we will return back, and there will be also, of course, we will be visiting to shelter where the abandoned children and some of the helpless women have been kept. We are visiting to one of the organizations working for women and so on. So without taking much of time, whole program will be displayed. I don't know whether you've received the soft copy of the program. Uza might have sent. So if you have not yet checked your group email, you please check your group email, and you just note down which program, especially 10 today, and 11 and 13. So today we are beginning this symposium. I don't have to say much about this symposium, because the protection of children at the digital age is really important, and we have also experienced in the past, maybe also ongoing problem, how even a very, let's say the adult who actually, after 18 years we can say adult, eligible for voting right, and coming to the law college have also been harassed. So who else is there unprotected? So this is the era. We never realized that how, when, where, by whom will we be, especially young I'm talking about. So the children and young. So we have actually divided, maybe we'll hear later on that the difference, children, when we call children, maybe technically who have not attained the age of 18, but the young at the very vulnerable age have seen more being vulnerable due to using this digital. Of course, digital age has given a lot of opportunity. At the same time, the misuse of technology and not really understanding the abuse, the plights, the different issues of abuse, if we have not understood properly, and at any time, you, especially the young people, and children, of course, will be exploited. The exploitation of different level. So the entire session has been designed by Anilji and the friend from Child Safe Net. Some more will join. It will be, I think, definitely going to be a combination of the program, including the panel discussion. The panel discussion, especially after the cyber safety. I mean, we will start from cyber safety tools and protecting children, and then after lunch we have also cyber security on the dais, and then all the participants of the dais. Thank you very much.
My MSRD and APMA scholars, I don't call them students. And of course, dear KSL students, whenever I see young, bright, charming, and sparkling faces in their eyes, I feel spring in my feet, spring in my heart, and spring in my ideas. Because you people represent the finest specimen of youth in this country and in this world. As a father, as a parent, as a grandfather, I must say that people of my generation grow old, grow gray beards and hair, looking at you. But it doesn't mean that I'm old. I refuse to get old. Physically, emotionally, and philosophically. And my students in Tribhuvan University often call me recycled teenager. Of course I am. I don't dress up like a conventional Nepali old man. I don't speak like them. And I don't behave like them. Because before I was born, one of my favorite poets, Stephen Spender. Stephen Spender was a very famous English poet, and he wrote a beautiful poem in 1951. I'm afraid, except Madhav sir, none of us were born in 1951. But I'm pretty much sure that my father and mother must have been conspiring to give me my birth. And I always thank my father and mother for giving me opportunity to come to this art. As a professor, I have been teaching for almost 42 years. I have been teaching in university since I was 21. If I had not wandered in Europe as a hippie when I was only 17 or 18 years old, I would have finished my master's by I was 19. Those were the days. And so, I take every class as a challenge. Every class has a new beginning. I don't repeat same lecture next time. And I try to expand my friends. I often tell my students that in football, why Messi is Messi, why Ronaldo is Ronaldo. There are so many other good players who are better than Messi and Ronaldo. But Messi and Ronaldo are very popular and very famous because they know how to fully utilize the opportunity and utilize that fraction of second. This time in university, this time in your life will never come. It's not going to come back again. So, from my long experience, I'm 60 plus. I would like to tell you, don't miss this opportunity. Don't waste your time in wasteful things. Even when I was teaching, or I'm not in university, I used to tell my students that, you see, as long as you are students, your love should be with your books. Your girlfriend or boyfriend should be books. Books, 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 and books, and the world. I don't know how you people are. It's all your freedom. But as long as I was studying, I fell in love with the books, not with the girls. Yes, I fell in love with gym and the sports also. But that was another thing. Anyway, so before I conclude, as far as this APMA, Asia Pacific Masters and Masters in Human Rights and Democratization course is concerned, since last 3-4 months, we have been engaged in vigorous exercise in teaching. And don't expect to give me any quarters. And no mercy, no generosity. But you will deserve your due. And we teach, our whole of our teaching is focused on two momentous and magnetic ideas and concepts. What are the two these magnetic ideas and concepts that totally influence the present world? Human rights and democracy. You may not like it, you may dislike it, but you cannot avoid it. You cannot evade it. The wasps and the bees may forgive you, may leave you behind, but human rights and democracy, you see, it's a global phenomenon. The whole world is or has been experiencing almost unprecedented. Well, there have been some challenges and some crises. About that crisis, I'm going to deal tomorrow, that democratic recession. But no rulers, no country, no systems can totally neglect democracy and human rights. The countries and society may be in different stages of development of democracy, but the trend, the direction is, of course, towards this human rights and democracy, because since I have experienced democracy and this human rights, I said that even before my birth, I have seen how a state can be cruel and how a state can be brutal in Nepal itself. When I was a little boy of 5 and 6 years in 1961, and how the rulers could be mad and how the rulers could be cruel while wearing that big thing, that crown. I have seen that. So, and in this, while teaching human rights and democracy, and because these law students also need to study a lot about human rights. Unfortunately, I'm afraid you don't talk more about democracy. So this law course is a little bit incomplete without democracy. So I would like to suggest both Madam Sir and both Gita Ma'am to make it more balanced, so that they understand all the laws, human rights laws, in the proper context. Because you need contextual information, not only subject-wise information. And because what we experience, what we see is continuous outdatedness, continuous obsolescence, and continuous irrelevance of old theories and old paradigms. Fortunately, in MHRD, we try to discuss all these, we try to approach all these debates. And this is a very unique course, you see, we have 5 students, and 5 students are from 5 different countries. Where in Nepal, where in Asia, you get that 5 or 6 students are from 6 or 5 different countries. And they bring with them their cross-cultural experience, they will bring with them their cross-religious, cross-ethnic, cross-national experience and perception to the class. So, and based on these cross-national things, we try to overcome, we try to transcend all kinds of boundaries, both philosophical, conceptual, theoretical, and even national boundaries to approach the issue. This is what human rights is and democracy. Finally, let me thank you for your very patient hearing and wishing you a very happy New Year. Let New Year begin with new spirit and new determination. Thank you.
Everybody needs a place, it shouldn't be inside of someone else. Likewise, we should not let others tell us who to be, and our idea of us should come from within us. So here's to young ideas and young mind. With this, for concluding remark, I'd like to call upon Professor Madhav Prasad Acharya.
Of course, there might be different experiences from different fields that you are to observe. You might have your own experiences in your respective fields. You may discuss. Children are indeed very much focus point, who should be brought with all attention. They don't provoke that. Which is warned to the government that if you do not invest your money for the children by now, invest this many-fold money for in future to build up vision. If children are not brought up in violence,
Great.
if children are not brought up in right course, there might be trouble in future. They are the future of the nation, and ultimately they may break the law and go to criminal line, ultimately to prison. So the government must be aware of this fact and make every effort to protect the children. Of course, the government has made certain efforts in our country. It is not that easy. Still, the problem is there that the problem is ever expanding, and the government said that we lack resources. The only measure that it is to be that best utilization the available resources for the benefit of the majority. So, in this concern, I wish you to be ahead and learn as much as you can, and if you have the opportunity, all the best. This much.
So today, we'll be spending one day talking about protecting children and young people in the digital age. Before we start, I would like to hear from you, maybe from 4 or 5 students, about your expectation from today's symposium. So can we get 5 volunteers? So what do you expect from today's symposium?
My expectation is to learn more about why children are so much into the mobile phones, and why are they so much attracted to it, and what is the human right dimension of that particular issue.
Why children are
So much attracted to
mobile phones, and what are the human rights aspects. Thank you very much. So yes.
Thank you, sir. And I'm expecting nowadays Social media as great.
The increasement of children using the multimedia like mobile, computer, and also I'm wondering whether I will be able to learn about the website or internet crime that has been increased.
Okay, so I
Actually expect that what actually might be the remedial process, or what might be the remedial measures that we can take in, and what might be our roles being a law student to protect the rights of the children in the digital age.
very good. What
Children are involved in cyber sex crimes, especially in the region in Southeast Asia where many children are being trafficked into this, especially the parents are the ones who are trafficking children into cyber sex, and most of the clients are foreigners who are willing to pay like thousands or hundreds of dollars just for these videos, and this secure, and also want to learn more about how can we protect the rights of children, and at the same time not kind of restricting them to use social media because it's also their right, it's a right for information, but how will we make a balance between these two areas?
The freedom of expression. So how in the online environment, how can we actually balance these rights?
right?
And people in the rural area, you don't have access to it.
How to bridge digital divide among look at some of the issues related to digital age, and then we will talk about the issue. A real letter. How many of you have written a letter? When was it? Last week. Very good. So I can see only one person who wrote a letter last week.
We usually build cards to my family.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Okay, so that's the second thing. And the third thing is, how many of you have used a CD or a cassette to listen to music? You still use CD?
I used before.
CD. Now. Now
I still use.
use CD. And how many of you use cassette? Okay.
Tax, mobile, taxi. So like, but they actually when you seeing them on the street, they would somehow stay on the pavement. So they ask, oh, I want to go to some place, like elsewhere example. So we will negotiate the money with them, and so agree, so we go. So that's it, the traditional taxi, motorcycle, but now will be compete with the Grab, because the Grab will be booked online, but the traditional taxi will be booked through mouth and negotiation. It's like that.
Which happens in the USA or Europe or Japan or Korea, it's also happening in Nepal. So we're also using the technology, we're also using these applications, and people know much more about these things, especially in the cities, because some of the facilities are not available in the villages. But some, like I think e-Sewa is available throughout the country. Yeah. And Skype, Viber, these WhatsApp are also available all over the country. So wherever they have internet, they can access that. So that means in Nepal also we are already in the digital age. And most of you, when you are a child, you were introduced to the technology, to the computer, to internet, mobile phones from your childhood. You did not need to wait for 10 years, 20 years until you become a teenager or you are an adult to get familiar with these technologies. So you are born when the digital technology is already there. So in that way, you are the citizens of the digital world. You are already there. You are in the digital age. You are the citizens of digital age, digital world. What like us, when we were children, even teenagers, those things were not there. So we are immigrants of the digital world. We are not the natives. You are the natives, we are the immigrants, but we all are living in the same digital world. So because we are the immigrants, we have to learn a little more. We are not much familiar with the technology like you are. So that's why this is the digital age. We are already in the digital age, and the digital age has so many wonderful things, very good things we're using, and you have all the privileges, all the rights to use the technology for your benefit. Now we look at the other side of the digital age as well. Because of this, maybe how many of you can recognize these faces? Let me test you. So,
in that movie, in between a song, she was just showing some trick with her eyes. Just, I don't know.
Can you please show?
The action she did that she kissed two fingers and
Eyebrows.
Thank you. Now we look at another picture. That's very nice. No. She's from Gorkha and she's known as So she became very popular because two pictures of her went viral while she was carrying vegetable, and known as Tarkari Wali, means the vegetable dog.
Now she is married with that photographer.
Ah, really?
What is that?
Yes. Who is he?
The YouTuber singer.
A YouTube singer.
YouTube singer. Okay. So I have screened the pictures of 6 popular faces, and there is one thing common among all these 6 people. What made them popular?
Social media.
Social media, digital media. Was newspaper or television or radio involved in their popularity? What made them popular? That's because of the technology. Because of YouTube, because of the social media, they became very popular. So now you can see the power of the digital age. We knew about the singer from South Korea without knowing the language, even the language of the Kerala girl. We don't know her language, but she became so popular, and it reaches a big number of people. The first is the speed is very fast, and it can reach very big number of people. And the third power is easy access. We all have easy access to technology. You can use computer, tablet, phone, or whatever connected devices you have. It's easily accessible, easily available.
Beyond border.
And you don't need to be in the same place to use all these things. Like it's beyond border. You can use the technology. I told you that WhatsApp, Viber, and Skype can be used in all the parts of the world where there is internet. In the same way, the technology can be used in other parts of the world, except in the places where the technology is blocked. Like in China, they don't allow Facebook. So it's beyond border. So we have the power to reach the places beyond our country, beyond the border. And anonymous, like people can send your messages, your posts without revealing their identity. There's a privilege. They can be anonymous. 4 billion people and 3.7 billion people have access to internet. And active social media users 2.78. It's about 2.8 billion. And the unique mobile phone users are about 5 billion. And active mobile social media users are 2.5 billion. So it shows in the population of the world, 34% are active social media users. But this information is 1 year old. Now the number might have gone very high. Now let's look at how many of you have seen this picture before? No? So can someone just quickly read a few of the information there, like one by one, starting from Facebook?
Videos viewed, and then Google Apps, 342,000 apps downloaded, and Instagram, 46,200 posts uploaded, Twitter, 452,000 tweets sent, Tinder, 990,000 sweepers, and emails, swipes, and email, 156 million emails sent, Spotify, 40,000 hours listened,
45.
and that is amazing echo, that 50 voice first devices shipped, LinkedIn, 120 new accounts created, and Messenger, 15,000 GIFs sent via Messenger, and that is Snapchat, 1.8 million snaps created, and that is online shopping, I think.
Online shopping.
$751,522 spent online. Netflix, 17 hours watched. Google, 3.5 million search queries, and Facebook I've already done.
Thank you. Thank application for shopping, for entertainment, for many things. So it's being used, so it's very much active. Now let's see the situation of children. So 16.1 million people have access to internet through mobile phones. 25 years is 52%. So most of the people are from the side, 14 to 17 and 18 to 25. And another big segment is 26 to 50 years. And the child users, 14 to 17 years of Facebook, mostly boys, 61%, and girls, 49%. So digital citizenship has a lot of things about their safety concerns, their norms, etiquettes, their behavior, their physical, their mental health, and their protection. There are many things which are affecting lives of people in this digital world because of the digital citizenship. And if we use it in a positive way, in a nice way, it will also give good benefit.
One girl was beaten by Dhami. He was saying that this girl is boxy, and then and then he was beating her, and then other people were watching that incident, and no one had done any thing for any. No one was helping her. Yeah, no one was helping her.
Treat people respectfully online, same as meeting face to face. Do not say or post anything which might be offensive to others. Do not make fake IDs. If required, such IDs can be traced and the culprits will be punished. Do not make or spread fake news. Defaming others or spreading hateful messages is a crime in Nepal, and the offenders can be punished.
Okay, thank you. Do you agree with this?
Yes, sir.
We need to follow. 100%. Okay, final. Okay. Are you sure?
100%.
100%. Okay, let me.
It is so because it has all kind of complexities like @ underscore hyphen hash, and that makes password
strong and difficult to guess.
Difficult to guess.
The second password has the longest characters. What did he say? Okay.
C. None of the above.
Time's up.
It's safe to share your password.
That's why it is better not to share with anybody.
Catfishing.
No, I have similar objection. Since we both have given answers, they have...
Close your privacy or something. So we don't.
Okay, thank you. Bullying out of this. Yes.
Or some kind of virus or something.
Final answer. D. Also, it talks about unfriend or block him or her and report if that's offensive to you. Yes. It tells a message how you A. Report abuse, block the person. Final answer. Okay, that's correct.
To act. It's like more towards artificial intelligence, sort of. Yeah.
Okay, find and it will suggest you. Okay, recommend this video. That is machine learning.
And Team B 55, so Team
Thank you very much.
You see that regulates the entirety of the internet, so that can be a key challenge.
Okay, so I think that's partially correct, not fully, because internet, most of the internet is controlled by US, and some of.
I guess so. There is a problem of hacking and child pornography auction business is being so popular nowadays. So there is challenges.
They've lost their individuality, and there's this necessity to compete and be more than what you already are. That is a social problem.
Please give one example.
Behind the doors, will always have that urge to look like them. They will always be insecure of how they already are, and they are going to be very insecure throughout their life because of that thing.
Ideas and perception of child as well. And also if we go through the social challenges, then it's kind of, suicide rate has also been increasing because of cyberbullying and so on. Yes, in case of children and so on. So.
Okay.
Comments that were given about like not being managed properly and not being monitored properly. I don't think that more monitoring or more management is the solution or the direction we want to go in, because number one, you have to ask who do you want to be monitoring you, and who do you want to be managing your data, who do you want to give your information to. If you give it to the government, to the state, or one single entity to monitor the entire World Wide Web, that will just shrink the democratic spaces we have to voice our opinions. And I mean, I think it's very, very dangerous to go in that direction. And I think one of the beauties of the internet is that it allows for all kinds of opinions to be expressed precisely without an authority overseeing that. So yeah, just on this.
Okay.
Nobody has control over the hormonal tendency of adults and children, young people. So they need some kind of intrinsic motivation. And for this, to provide those intrinsic motivation, I think government and this institution like this should provide or overwhelm social media with positivity and positive stuff. So if this happens, then their diversified focus can be brought little more close towards positive stuff in the internet. So this will, decline the tendency of young people and children to get indulged in pornographic stuff, because the pornographic stuff and pornography is the second most searched thing in internet in today's world.
Okay. Thank you. The best friend of people have become the mobile and internet right now. Addiction is you cannot live without looking at your mobile phone every 10 minutes or something like that. That is addiction. Yeah?
Right?
Yeah.
So, and because of that, because of that, it is very difficult for you not to use the internet. You isolate yourself when you do not use the internet, and likewise when there are a lot of backlashes for a smoker or an alcoholic if they don't drink or smoke, the same kind of bodily reaction happens to your body when you do not use the internet. So I just wanted to add that.
The internet or phone or what comes inside that?
We don't use Facebook, or like if we are studying and we might think that, oh, what happened in Facebook, is that addiction?
That's in technical world, that's addicted to alcohol. You cannot tell that the person is addicted to the glass. Internet is a container, and the things which come in internet, like the social media or YouTube, those are the alcohol, the contents. And what type of content? So they are addicted to the contents, not to the technology, not to the phone. If there is nothing comes, you will not look at the phone.
The function of the brain is that whenever you get new information, and there is a substantial amount of dopamine that releases, and when you are caught off with the dopamine influx, then you again seek more information, so that is what addicts you. And gaming addiction is also very similar to that. When you are in a gaming world, there is a lot of things to explore, and it's really amazing.
Thank you.
Family members are sitting inside a room. They all have mobile and they all are using internet. So that might be social institution, in my opinion.
Okay.
In which the app would show that where you are. So if I turn on the location, the app would show that I am inside the college building, or if I am inside the car. And the other kinds of privacy problems are like in Facebook, if I put a photo with some of my friends, and if I tag myself, I don't even need to tag them, because the Facebook has this face recognition feature. It itself recognizes that he's Vijay Karki and he's Dipesh Takal. So I think that is one of the very major problems that we face in social media.
We could have psychological effect of the aftermath, which is also known as PTSD, like a post-traumatic syndrome, which will stay with them throughout their years for what they've been doing.
My question was, one example is to use the obscene pictures of children, the vulgar pictures. We don't use the word child pornography. It's called child sexual abuse materials or images. So those type of images, what they use, they post, they share, that is one form of online child sexual abuse. And if it is used for the purpose of making money, for commercial purpose, it's called exploitation, sexual exploitation. That's the difference between sexual abuse and sexual exploitation. And another form could be to have live chat with somebody, live streaming, and force, manipulate, or ask the child to do things which might be of sexual nature on webcam. That could be another form of online child sexual abuse. And for that, sometimes what people try to, not sometimes, many times they do is, they make friends with children, and they try to be friends and be good. Maybe a 50 years old man can pose as a 20 years old, very handsome young boy, and talk to a big friend with a young girl. After 2 weeks, after 1 month, they might want to meet somewhere, and they want to develop sexual relationship with that person. That's called cyber grooming. Cyber grooming relationship. And they share passport, they share everything, they share your private pictures, which might be offensive if it's seen by others. But later on, they broke up. And the boy had posted those private pictures in the internet, in the college, everybody knew what happened, and they saw the picture. And girl was feeling guilty and shy, and also she could not face the society. Later on, she had to suicide. Even after the suicide, after 2 years, those pictures are circulating in the net. Those are, you can easily find those pictures, even after the death of the girl. So, posting those type of pictures, videos, is very, very sensitive. So we should not keep those things on our phone.
Shared with you initially, and the girl, the first girl, he abused 2 girls. He was charged for, but he was not seen on the picture with all those, the sextortion or what. But it was like he was blackmailing. At the initial phase, that was total blackmail, but she was not in the position, because he was saying like, I will expose all your pictures, whatever I have taken, you taking shower, and everything was in his hand. So because of which, without telling, and the culture of silence was maintained, and she was actually submitting herself. And what was seen at the end was, she was also enjoying whatever she was doing, and that enjoyment part was taken into consideration against that girl, and the background was not seen. So this is very important for us to know when we talk about child sexual abuse. So whatever had happened in the past, and just to make sure that that shall also be taken into consideration in order to define crime and punish accordingly. So for a law student and also like the activist, you should always take care of all those things, from the crime behind scene background and then crime connected with. But the crime never ever exposes this kind of fact. For the crime that starts from this point, but not beyond that.
We are doing now, it can be done in the schools, in the colleges, we can do it.
Awareness.
But it is not implemented properly, so we are in need of proper laws to regulate this problem.
Happy when the children are tech savvy, they know how to use the technology, and they can buy expensive mobile phones. Spending money is more important than spending time. That's what they think. So time is very important. People, they also are addicted actually, not only children. So if the children play, they can also play. They can also use internet. So they can they can buy those things, but they forget that their children are also getting addicted. So spending more time with children is more important. And here I have some tips. Actually, these are for the parents, but these will also be applicable for young people and even for children. Not only. Can you see this clearly?
Yes.
So first, agree on a clear set of rules in your home about the screen time. Follow the rule. Make clear rules like how many hours you will use internet, what time, and where will you use. So that rules will be set together with children and will be followed by children as well as the parents. And lead by example. If people who smoke tell other people not to smoke, will they listen to him or her? So if parents want their children to do things in a right way, they have to give example by themselves. Lead by example. Be a role model. Do as you say. Know when to unplug and curb your own bad digital habits. To be a role model. This is, when I talk to many parents, this is found to be one of the toughest thing to do for them. They can say, don't do. Out of 10 times, people say, don't do, nagara. And one time they say, do. What they do? They say, 10 palta nagara, one time gara. That is homework gara. One time they say, do homework. 9 times, don't do this, don't do that. And to make phone-free zone or device-free zone, like a bedroom or like the dining room. You don't take your mobile phones and computers, so that place will be free of phones or internet.
But what happened that we had already the enough materials and everything given. Just couple of hours the internet was not there, and that actually created the total negative evaluation by saying this also happens to others, and saying that there was no conducive environment because of lack of internet. Now the question is, if we say every other moment, now this kind of addiction is, even if person is doing nothing, just to make sure that the tower is on. If computer's tower is on, it may happen with me, it may happen with anyone. Like maybe I get wild, the internet is not working. It also happens in my house. Like, oh, internet is not working. From everyone of all the ages, the internet is not working. Internet is not working. If internet is not working, something is working, and that is actually giving you the time to think and analyze. This is just an example that if previous but at the same time another good practice also. Another also Abma Asia Pacific student also said that, so what? If internet is not working, I will enjoy more with the going outside and then seeing and observing, see the conflict of interest. But this latter person having internet every time coming from Australia. So the Australian citizen was saying that, so what, if internet is not there, we would be using whatever the material given by. So
they make pictures, they create or they share sexual, violent, racist, or discriminatory or dangerous behavior. It's content. Content is very important. There should be content which is not unsafe for them or unsafe for others. And the contact, to whom people contact, to communicate and to make friends with strangers or to communicate with people who may harm them. So contact those type of people. And conduct, create sexual or other harmful materials. What type of conduct? Create and also involve in sexting or involve in those type of harmful behavior. So that is another thing. Content, contact, and conduct. These three things make people at risk. And so these things we already discussed, sexual abuse and exploitation, extortion. Trafficking is another issue. Like now people don't need to go physically, they can contact.
The preachings of the devil against sinning, whatever it is. So the thing about cyberbullying is almost everyone either does it or everyone is a victim. So what is it exactly? So it's repeated harm or harassment through electronic devices. It's not necessary that the internet needs to be involved. It can be through SMS, it can be through any other electronic devices. Internet is not necessary. And usually cyberbullying, it lasts through prolonged periods of time. It's not just one instance. Usually it lasts for prolonged periods of time. And its main purpose is psychological warfare. You send mean messages, you send threats to undermine another person's dignity. That is the main distinguishing feature of cyberbullying. And the main effect it produces among people, among the victims, is humiliation, anxiety, loss of dignity, loss of self-esteem. So that, in a nutshell, is cyberbullying. So moving on, what are the pretexts of bullying? What are the motivations of the bully? And on what basis do bullies target the victims? So one of the obvious things is physical appearance or physical size. You see someone who's very thin or someone who's oversized and you call them fat ass or you call them, shorty and stuff like that. And you repeatedly start bullying them. we've all been at the receiving end of this sort of thing at one point or the other. And this thing, maybe in the past, before the advent of the internet, we used to face this in the classroom. But if my cursory studies of history has taught me anything, all civilizations have practiced prejudice and racism, whether they were Egyptians, whether they were Japanese, Chinese, Aztecs. We have a history of racism. So this racism, prejudice in terms of ethnicity, it can extend from anywhere. It can be practiced by any ethnic group, by any nation, by any ethnicity. But there is a predomination of racial prejudice among certain ethnicity more than others. So that is an issue. Another could be gender and sexuality, misogyny, that is hatred of women. That is a prevailing issue in the world, especially in underdeveloped countries. It's an issue in developed countries as well, to a lesser extent, but it takes other forms. In Eastern countries, in Africa, in the Middle East, in our country, Nepal, in India, and in other places, it takes much more severe forms. And sexuality, that would be LGBTQ issues. Sexuality as in homosexuality, transsexuality, stuff like that. People pick on others, in terms of if they deviate from established norms. Our established norms is man and woman, male and female. So if people deviate from that, cyberbullying can occur in that situations as well. Religion is another pretext. There's a majority religion, say Christianity, and maybe other religions are minorities. They may bully on that pretext. Maybe Islam is the majority religion, maybe Hinduism is the majority religion, maybe Buddhism is the majority religion. So that could be a pretext. Language is another pretext. Academic achievement could be another pretext. Usually people on the top and the bottom percentile are more at risk. Those who fail continuously are more likely to be bullied, as well as those at the very high end of the spectrum, the very intelligent. I'm not talking about your regular toppers, I'm talking about the very intelligent. They are also more highly likely to be bullied because they tend to have a different sort of personality. I've seen a certain friend of mine, he went and he studied in Yale. He was my classmate, and he had a very peculiar personality, and he was rather obnoxious. So a lot of us, not just a lot of us, all of us, we had the unfortunate tendency to single him out. So that is an unfortunate confession that I have to make. I was also one of them when I was little. And that is a tendency in society to single out students at the top and the bottom percentile. So these people are also vulnerable to being bullied online as well as in the classroom. So family status is also another thing. Family status, reputation, maybe a child's one parent or both parents, maybe they're divorced, or maybe the father has a reputation of being a drunkard, maybe the mother is a divorcee. So all these factors might lead the child to be bullied. Another is personality quirks. I've already discussed, like in terms of academic achievement. Maybe there are other personality quirks. Maybe he suffers from autism. Maybe the child suffers from autism. Maybe there are other weird personalities. That could be a pretext for bullying. And children with disabilities are also vulnerable to being bullied. And personal opinion. This is also an important issue. Children as well as adults have all sorts of opinion. In talking about children, they watch cartoons, they watch movies. Let's say one child is a Marvel fan, another child is a DC fan. So most of the children, most of his classmates are Marvel fans, let's say. And just a few of the children are DC fans. So it's possible that the Marvel fans gang up and they start bullying the DC fans. So that's possible. It's also possible that children may hold opinions, when they reach adolescent, they start holding political opinions. And as you mature, as you start, reaching your teenagers, you start holding political opinions. You start, holding opinions about the outside world, opinions about your life. Depression will take place if the victim suffers from depression, and in extreme cases, the victim might even try to injure himself, try to harm himself, and finally might commit suicide. So that is the real harm, the most extreme risk of cyberbullying, ending of one's own life. So this is a real serious issue, and we must take it seriously due to these reasons. Now, what are the different types of cyberbullying? So, as I've listed here, there are 6 types of cyberbullying. Now, it depends on person, on who's classifying, what sites you're seeing. Different sites, different people classify according to their own criteria. So, I've just taken this general view and classified it into 6 different types. So, as you can see, one type of cyberbullying is harassment, another is flaming, another is exclusion, another is stalking, another is doxing or outing, another is masquerading. So what's harassment? So harassment is basically just sending offensive messages, harmful messages over time to either an individual or to a group of people. So basically what you do is you select a person, you send a message, you say hurtful things, then you come back again, maybe tomorrow, maybe day after tomorrow, you send the message again, you harass him, you say hurtful things over an extended period of time. You just don't give him peace of mind. So that would be harassment. Flaming would be something like you post an opinion in, say, a chat board or a message board or in social media. Let's say you post an opinion. You say, suppose I don't like certain movie or I don't like certain movie star. Say you posted that. I suppose, I think, in my view. I myself am not exactly clear because. Would you like to?
I think the level of the information shared, it could also be outing. I think it could also be.
Let me clarify that.
Yeah.
Sir, I think what she's referring to.
Forward. The second being one of our ALPMA scholars, Ms. Fiona Wong. And lastly, may I invite Ms. Viksha Sangola, advocate.
That I think are relevant to the things that we have covered today with regard to protection of children and cyberbullying and this digital age that we live in right now. So first of all, I just want to ask you all, have you all heard of the term gender-based violence? Yes. You all know what it is, right? Yes. And when we refer to gender-based violence, what gender do you usually associate it with? Women, right? So it is widely acknowledged that women are disproportionately the victims of and targets of gender-based violence, even offline. Even in everyday life, you can see examples of that everywhere, right? So it is no surprise that this violence is also reflected in online spaces, in digital spaces. So this is just to point out that just now when there was a point raised that girls suffer more from online interaction because they backbite. I don't think that's a very accurate analysis of the situation, when in fact it is because of like patriarchal structures in society that women are disproportionately targets of violence online, not just in real life. That's one point. And there are a few other points that maybe I'll point out later, but I just want to say also that in terms of like the title of the panel is what can we do? Well, what can we do in this point is in this aspect is to recognize first of all the causes of this violence and not to misidentify the root causes of like the violence that people face online, especially in terms of bullying. And because if you hold the wrong people accountable, the problem is going to persist, bullying is going to persist, and disproportionately women and girls are going to continue suffering from cyberbullying, trafficking, and sexual abuse online. With regard to the video that was shown just now on the Predator in My Phone, the Rage production. In Malaysia, we call the team Rage, and they're very, very famous because of the work they've done. They actually raised a lot of awareness on the issues that young people, especially young girls, are facing from internet use, their interactions online. And they actually managed, because of what they did, Malaysia actually passed an act called the Sexual Offences Against Children. It was passed at the end of last year, and this production was actually a crucial role, played a crucial role in bringing that bill to the table. And it is now subsumed under the Child Act, so and a lot of the provisions in the Act cover things, cover internet use, digital use, and like sexual abuse, online, and trafficking as well. And also, so that's one of the things that we can do, which is like raise social awareness and to the level that we pass acts that are implemented in Parliament, and you all are law students, so I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Another thing that from the activist perspective of what can be done, civil society, is just being more like conscious about calling out people, reporting posts you see online that you think are abusive or misogynist or like racist. You know, you can just report it, and there are community standards on these social media platforms, even though they are not very effective because it is all subjective to what people at these companies have come up with. You can still do what is within your power. But Amnesty International actually very recently launched a campaign called Troll Patrol. Have you all heard of it? Troll Patrol. You all know what troll means? Yeah. You all know what troll means, yeah. So Amnesty, they wanted to get statistics from Twitter about the violence that women face online, like the troll, the rape threats, and all of that. And Twitter refused to provide them with this statistics, so it was not transparent. And they refused to let Amnesty International know like how they responded exactly when they received these reports. So Amnesty decided to take things into their own hands and put out a public call open to anyone. So all of you can participate right now on your phones, Twitter, by joining with Amnesty International and be part of this Troll Patrol. You can do it anytime, any day, and you just go through the tweets that you see on your feed, and you report anything that you think is targeting women, like rape threats or anything that is gonna harm somebody else. So you're doing the work that Twitter refuses to do or refuses to make it known. So that's how you can contribute in your capacity as like members of the public and students and whatever. Really take responsibility and realize like what they are doing and consider the ethics behind the products that they are creating. But in the meantime, we can still work on what we can do, which is like participating in the Troll Patrol or like getting our governments to pass bills against like sexual trafficking online and whatnot. And I hope that all of you will like take initiative in your own hearts and don't give up hope. Yeah, thank you.
Adding on that, I would like to bring highlight to the media addiction or internet addiction. Technology in itself is, with its advances, there's pros and there's cons. Specifically talking about social media, what Fiona went on saying, if you take a moment to realize that very popular media, social media like Instagram and Facebook, you will see infinite scrolling. There is they just go on and go on and go on. Next a video plays, then next video plays. So these are the things that are made to make us more engaged with the social media, not with the other person. The contents, our informations, they are taken from us and they're curated in a way that we will not leave them. So a question arises here: is internet the ultimate evil, or for her presentation? Thank you so much.
And my dear Bhai-Bainis and my colleagues from the ATMA program and Dhruba. And also we have some representatives from the KSL Secretariat and Administration just to hold me more accountable when I'm speaking in front of more than 100 people. Is it more than 100? Yes. So, first of all, I must admit, let me tell you firstly about Aristotle's art of persuasion. What is the strongest argument? A strong argument has three components. It has, and I'm sure you've heard of it, ethos, pathos, and logos. What's logos? Logic, the logic behind your argument, how well researched you are, what's the content. What's pathos? Pathos is your subjective opinion about the subject, like your feelings, your emotions. What do you feel about the subject? Most of what Dhruva said right now, like the raising questions about internet as an evil or a platform which you can use for the better good, or more subjective analysis of the topic, and a lot of content that came ahead from the presenters before me was mostly logos, definitely, and also pathos, good storytelling about Amanda Todd. It evoked powerful emotions within you, and that is a very strong factor. And the final one is ethos. Ethos is tricky. Ethos means credibility. It means who is the person who is making that very nice, well-researched, and very powerful and emotive presentation. And ethos is the most important aspect to make an argument convincing. An argument may be well-researched, but it may not be persuasive if the person who's speaking about it has not done enough research on it, or hasn't lived it. So say I'm speaking about child rights and someone over at my house is making tea for me, a child. So will you believe anything I say? If I myself employ child labor, but I might be the best person speaking in front of you. So that's ethos, your personal character. And someone in the hall, I believe, has the credibility, the high ethos value, which is definitely not me. And for that, I'd like to begin my presentation. And that ethos in the room is Mr. Anil Raghuvanshi. He has spent his life working on issues of children. So whatever he says is likely to be, has to be more, is definitely more convincing. I, on the other hand, I definitely am someone who likes kids, who likes to respect the idea of respecting people online. I try as much to do that. I fail sometimes, like our presenter who's confessed. I must also confess that. Especially when I was a kid, my sister and I were both bullied. And we were also a very powerful bully. We bullied a small kid every day when we came back from our school. So much to a point that his mother one day came to the school and complained about us, and we were scolded, and then we realized that we were bullying because we were ourselves bullied, and we were victims of the system ourselves. So now I would like to begin with a question. If you had the superpower to be invisible, how many of you would want it? How many of you would want to be invisible? Or if you've watched Harry Potter, the Get the Invisibility Cloak. How many of you want it? Just a show of hands. Would you like to be invisible? Yes, say yes. Just raise your hand. I would like to be invisible. With choice. Not many, which I don't know what to make of it, but just people who want to be invisible, this applies to you. You were invisible. If you were visible, you do something. If you were invisible, say, nah, would you do things differently?
No, actually, I want invisible because I don't want to be disturbed by someone. So okay. I want to be alone with my own words.
That's a very nice. I want someone who would answer if they would do anything differently invisible that they wouldn't do if they were visible. Let me answer for myself. I am likely to do a lot of things if I am invisible that I wouldn't do if I were visible. And that is the analogy that I want to use for internet space. So many people are very different when they're on the internet. And somehow that represents to me that invisibility cloak, the anonymity that surrounds, especially when you're able to leave comments online. It doesn't even make a difference if you can use your name. For some reason, posting on each other's comments, photos or videos just gives us that power to reclaim the power we might be lacking or feel that we are lacking in our real life. So a lot of the trolls, for example, have you heard of 4chan? They say that they started, the whole meme industry and the troll industry was a result of individuals feeling powerless. And somehow using that invisibility cloak to give a social commentary on people and on their lives. And so one person said very appropriately, the goal is not for us to be happy, it is for us to be happier than others. Because we always think someone else whose life we're seeing via scrolling indefinitely, they are happier. And I want to start my presentation like this, but this is not what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about protecting rights of children online, which is definitely not as interesting as... so it'll be high on Logos, I believe, but probably not much on Ethos and Pathos. But I think it'll help you understand a few things. Now, Internet, I'd like to begin with a quote that the Human Rights Council stated in its resolution 20/8 in 2012. And you wouldn't think Human Rights Council would come up with these statements like we do, but they do. They said things like, the same rights that people have offline must also be protected online. So the Human Rights Council in its resolution 20/8. And this is a very strong statement that shows that the United Nations has taken this issue very seriously, saying that all the crimes that are committed against children in day-to-day life are mutatis mutandis, also done against them online. And as our presenter said, in fact, children, and especially girl children, are disproportionately affected by what happens online, as we've seen. Now the question is, in a digital world where we're saying, even the Convention on Rights of Child says that the states have a duty to ensure that a child has access to information from a variety of sources, national, international, in a competitive world, no child should be left behind. We're in this world, we're also arguing how internet is making each child more vulnerable. So it's been 10 years since the specialized agency of the United Nations, the International Telecommunication Union, ITU, International Telecommunication Union is that specialized agency within the UN which has taken this big responsibility of making internet safer for everybody, especially for children. So ITU, definitely look this organization up and what it does. One of the most important things it does is try to come up with legal measures to take to make internet a better place. And they have it was established in 2008, and 10 years have passed, celebrating 10th year, saying, create, connect, and share respect. A better internet starts with you. So it's a very powerful message, high on emotion, and like Fiona said, you're a stakeholder in it. What she said about Amnesty International, Stroll Patrol, you can take your initiative in that way. So ITU, I would definitely request you to go and look. I found it very interesting because what they're trying to do is trying to balance children as very active participants of the internet. They have a right to engage in the internet. They have a right to access information from a variety of sources, but also states have a duty to protect them against any harm that arise in the enjoyment of their rights. Right? So we can't be agents of scaremongering, spreading these stories about how the internet has become a bad place, when apparently, according to the Convention on Rights of Child, perhaps you could argue that children have a right to be actively engaged in internet. There was once a debate about whether there should be a right to internet in the Canadian Supreme Court. One would think in a country where children are dying of diarrhea, these are all first world problems, first world issues, but that couldn't be further from the reality. I think internet has become a basic commodity where if our children are not being able to use internet effectively, we're only perpetuating the digital divide. So let's not scaremonger, but also try to make states, first and foremost, accountable legally for all the violation of rights of children that happen through internet. And our presenters have talked about what you can do, what you should do and what you shouldn't do. I think I will focus more on what the state should do, because it's always easier to say states didn't do that, especially in developing countries. It's very tempting and profitable, in fact, to say what state hasn't done, because it gives you attention. And I was talking to my sister about this article that I'm trying to write about how sometimes when you sell the poverty of your country, you're likely to get more attention in the international community. I've been a victim of that. When I say my country has done great things in terms of legalizing same-sex marriage, great things in terms of nutrition, in the health of people, nobody really wants to listen to me in the international community. When I say, did you watch that video on International Women's Day where a woman was beaten up, being accused of it, suddenly I get all the attention. Sadly, it's true, we have to speak about these things, but also good practices when they come from developing countries do not get as much attention as bad practices. That's because a lot of times people have confirmation bias. They want to hear bad things spoken about a developing country. I want to focus more on how good practices such as, and I'm sure a big resource of that good practices can be Mr. Raghuvanshi, and you can feel free to contact him and ask him about what good practices came out of his engagement with child rights. Now, I want to ask you one question. We all agree, right, that children should be, the rights of children should be protected online. Do we agree on that? Yes. There's no denying that. It should start from you, it should start from me, it should start from community, we should make Facebook, Google accountable, we should make states accountable, there's no denying that. Parents should be given support to look after their children in a manner they want to. Now the question is, we all agree on that. The challenge as law students we should be thinking about, how do we do that while not violating right to privacy of children? First of all, do you think children have right to privacy? When I say children, I mean persons 18 below. Do children have right to privacy? I clearly couldn't assert my right to privacy when my mother looked into my stationery box and found 50 rupees notes that I had stolen from her. I clearly couldn't say that she couldn't do that because she couldn't search my property or my person. This was when I was 8 or 9 years old. I had a habit of stealing money out of her wallet, thinking it's all my money, and I used to buy dolls and hide them under the bed that she used to sleep in. But I never asserted my right to privacy when I was, I still don't assert my right to privacy, and I'm 26. But the question is, do children have right to privacy? What do you think? Children. Yes? Okay. How many of you think children have right to privacy? Okay, how many of you think children should have a right to privacy? I think all of you who have had painful experiences. Yes, we need right to privacy. So there's, it's a settled area. Children definitely have a right to privacy. It's not as complicated as we might come to believe, so all of us should raise our hands when we say, yes, there is a right to privacy. It's not just about the UDHR and the ICCPR saying all persons have a right to privacy, but also the Convention on Rights of Child in Article 16 of CRC says that no child shall be subjected to arbitrary or unlawful interference with his or her privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor to unlawful attacks on his or her honor and reputation. Now, here we are thinking, do children even have reputation to worry about? Or honor? Or, say, correspondence? So technically, if I were to write a letter to my classmates saying I love them, my mother would not, and that if that person replied back in a sealed envelope and it came to my house, my mother wouldn't be able to open that envelope and read what a guy has written to her 12-year-old daughter. Now, it sounds absurd, right? I mean, how do we, and this was a big debate when the Article 16 was being drafted in the CRC Working Committee. I'm sure these delegates, these people who are parents to their children, were horrified by the idea that their children would be asserting right to privacy of their family, their home, their correspondence. So there was a delicate balance that was made by Article 5 of the Convention on Rights of Child, which stated that parents can take initiatives or provide direction and guidance to the child in the exercise by the child of his or her rights in a manner consistent with the evolving capacities of the child. So children do have a right to privacy, but also the parents and the caregivers and the persons who are responsible have the decision-making capacity to make sure that the children do not, the assertion of right to privacy does not come at their detriment. For example, the children do not continuously exert their right to privacy saying, I can flash whatever I want online on webcam to whomever I want because it's my right to privacy. So that's where there is a limit to that right to privacy. So there are people, there are stakeholders who can rightfully interfere because that is for the best interest of that person themselves. So this, the question really now is, we're now going to the internet and seeing what's happening, because first and foremost, it's not the responsibility of you or Facebook or Google, it's the responsibility of the states to make internet safer for everyone. In the name of making internet safer, I do not want unfettered power on the part of the state to take away the privacy, the right of children, because there is one. Imagine Nepal police, who is doing amazing work with their cybercrime department. I don't want a kind of heavy-handedness on the part of the government in the name of making internet safer. So the question we really need to be asking is, there's no denying that internet needs to be safer for all. The question is, how do we do that? How much power do we really give to the states and to the regulatory bodies? How much interference do we want to see in our lives and in the lives of our children? So these are the questions that I think have not been tackled. For example, the Constitution of Nepal speaks a lot about overall development of child, blah, 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 but they do not mention the word privacy when it comes to right of children. And the Committee on the Rights of Children has often noted with concern that so many domestic legislations and constitutions around the world do not speak of the word privacy, as if it doesn't exist when it comes to children. How would you encourage children to actively participate in the internet and contribute for a positive change if we're making them scared that their correspondence, their activities will be interfered with? So how do you strike that delicate balance of the children have dignity too, right? Do they? Yes. So if I were a child, I would like an internet for myself where my voice is heard. I do not want to be watched all the time, but I also understand that if I'm going the wrong way, there are people who want that my best interests are taken care of. So that's that legal question. How do we do that? Because imagine, I'm sure China and Russia and a lot of other countries would argue that they've made internet very safe because they're always watching, right? They know who's doing what. So how do you distinguish an authoritative, heavy-handed state who's trying to make internet safe for everyone? So that's a question that I wanted to leave for you. And I hope in the interaction and discussion I would like to hear not questions from you, because I have a tendency of giving back the question to you and you'll have to answer it. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on how do we make this happen. Right? Thank you so much.
How can Twitter give that information, and why should Amnesty ask for it?
Oh, right. That information is
Always complain it to the Twitter, right? And then the Twitter either blocks the account or either removes the account, right? Now, if you ask about a specific number, right? When you start asking about a number, I just want to ask this as regards the concept of right to privacy, right? When I open a Twitter account, right? I want to be assured that my information, whatever it is, right, it should not go somewhere. When Amnesty goes and asks something about it, how do you then safeguard that information in light of what you're trying to do? My phone twice, but I never read terms and conditions. But when you go through those terms and conditions, there are so many things which you would never agree to. Now, there's another application in Google which is called Google, right? There's something called Google Chrome. There's also something called Google Only.
Yeah.
Now, Google Only, what it does is, so my interests are football. Like he said, somebody like me would like football. So when I write IPL or when I write Commonwealth Games or when I write India or when I write Nepal, every morning when I open my Google, the moment I do refresh, it will show me what Cristiano Ronaldo's new video is there, or what has happened in India, or what has happened in the Supreme Court of India, or what has happened in Supreme Court of Nepal, whatever happened. It's like, I'm not carrying my phone. If you open any phone, you will see, when you refresh it, it shows it. How do they do it? There's a specific study also done on the fact, very similarly, that whatever you type is being recorded, and the ads by Facebook, Instagram, even Twitter, Google, any other company, what they do is, your words are picked up, like he says books. It is absolutely correct that it is picked up and you are shown advertisement accordingly. And like girls would like shoes, right? So, or a MAC, what you call lipstick. So, your Facebook will show more ads on MAC, or the lipstick which is called MAC, or on shoes, or on any other beautiful Hollywood heroine you guys are following. It will show what you want. They pick up your specific searches, they pick up your specific words, and then they systematically throw that information only towards you. So when that is happening, you think what is happening in terms of protection of children. Now, serial, she would be she did not want to be disturbed, so she would give her phone. Then my dad would give her his phone. Now, after around 5 to 6 years, when the kid was around 12, 13 years, that kid would not leave the phone. And the parents, their only solution to getting anything done by the kid would be to give the phone to him. Right? Now, that's psychological, what you call manipulation of a kid at an age of from an age of 6 to 12. It's a real story where the kid was was taken to psychologist, and then a lot of what you call psychological treatment and all those things were to be done with him, because for him the affection was playing with the phone, not talking to his father or mother, or spending time on reading or something else.
From different perspectives, different angles, you have done entire issues like I really, I like this ethos, ethos, whatever, like credibility. And but one thing is very important, that we should start talking from objective basis, evidence-based analysis. Even if we are not giving directly that from where it has been derived, the source sometimes we have to make the anonymity shall be maintained. Nonetheless, sometimes when it is required that we should have that evidence. There are so many examples that we have come across, but we might not have been able to actually do this. So the legal measures, just as the last thing, like I would like to just human rights examples are really important when we talk about child protection, together with gender dimension and also the vulnerability. You should understand that who have been badly cheated are actually with the little knowledge. Because of the lack of adequate understanding and adequate knowledge, the people have been cheated. We have been able to operate all these devices even if somebody is not educated or very barely little bit literate. Somebody creates, and because of which, so we have to understand the intersectionality. Within children, who are most vulnerable are socially, economically, geographically, ethnically. These are the children who have been badly cheated. Doesn't mean that others are not cheated. There are layers of the criminalization. So for that, I think we have to really go for understanding the delicate balance between all these rights. On the one hand, one has a right to privacy. and the other hand, right to information, freedom of expression, and so on and so forth. I was just looking for one thing. I mean, I was expecting when we talk about all this kind of in front of law students and then also the non-law students, it is very important to have a look at what are legal measures, what the law says about. Yes, we have international instruments to which Nepal is party. This is as good as law of Nepal. But in the meantime, we even enacted the law quite lately. It was sometimes in 2007 only that we created first cyber laws in Nepal. Maybe you can also have a look in Vietnam, Malaysia, as you have Child Act, right? Children's Act that actually includes that. And India, I think cyber law is also there. Short span of time, he agreed. This was my request that why don't we talk something very much, you know what human rights says about first call for children. First call for children. If future is uncertain, then what else are we looking for? That is why, in order to first call for children, for everything, from protection to prevention to remedy, it is very much necessary for us to think of the rights of children, especially this online and offline. So thank you very much, thank you the panelists, and thank you my scholars, and all the on and off the scene hands, and most importantly, thank you very much, more than hundreds of you. I saw you very actively taking part, and thank you very much our media friends. Can you please tell your names? Could you please come forward, because I heard that you were involved in feature filmmaking, and not just filmmaking. He studied the filmmaking, education. Could you please come forward?
So not a filmmaker now, so eventually. Yeah. Thank you so much. My name is Mansoy.